What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. One of my audience members put forward a video request and said you should make a video next on if this would be another Cyberpunk 2077 launch issue or not. So shout out to the nerdy giant. I'm going to try my best to answer this question in the context of my own thoughts and also some things that I've seen in the past with video game releases for big name AAA titles. Now, before we jump into my opinion, let's look back at what's even causing this. Cyberpunk 2077 is the most recent memory for a lot of people for a game that was severely hyped with almost no resistance in terms of the expectations and launched in a very poor state. In fact, the game was so bad for the PlayStation 4 that it was actually pulled from the PlayStation store at that time for the developers to work on it and clean it up. I remember another game that also faced a similar issue, Batman Arkham Knight on Steam. Yes, Arkham Knight on Steam also faced a lot of issues, was crashing a lot, was locked at 30 FPS, and the game got pulled from the Steam store at that time. And if you remember, for many people, they have actually reported that at some point they were offering free copies of the other Arkham games if you didn't cancel your pre-order at the time of Arkham Knight's launch. But if you go back and look at the sales for Cyberpunk, it sold 20 million copies. If you look at the reception of the Arkham Knight game, the fans eventually came to loving it. So one thing I've seen and I've noticed is fans are going to be lenient to games that they like. Now, this is a dangerous thing, but it's happened a lot of times. So if anybody is wanting to say, well, gamers shouldn't do this, we should hold all developers' feet to the fire, I think it's a little too late for that because we've already done it over and over and over again. So what's going to be Hogwarts Legacy's own fate? Should there be any technical issues? I think gamers are going to be lenient, the fans especially, towards the game. And this is the reality we're going to see. Now, I do hope, however, that we don't have any of these issues because I don't know. And it's actually kind of bad that we're actually talking about potential issues because a lot of these video games have come out in really, really poor states. Many of you remember that Hogwarts Legacy got a very interesting delay for the first time. Remember, that delay was supposed to get the game out in, I think it was like December, and then they canceled it before we got a new date for the release. And I remember when that first cancellation came about, or first, I would say postponement of the release date, I said to a lot of folk when I was talking about it in my videos that we may be seeing these dates get pushed back based on some of the performance challenges that you see in a lot of video games. Another thing, too, that somebody pointed out in one of my other videos is they think that the open world setting for Hogwarts Legacy might be a big and major issue when the game releases. Now, I don't know if they're talking from, say, a performance perspective. We got to see how Unreal Engine 4 handled Gotham Knights and, how that engine is actually very challenging. Even with Callisto Protocol, we got to see that game also have some challenges. And now we're going into Hogwarts Legacy and everyone is kind of like, biting their lip and trying to say, oh, no, I hope this game actually does the job. I think they may also be talking about the open world setting and how mission structures and quests and exploration are going to be. Is the world going to be something that's immersive? Is it going to be a world that's interesting? These are also other concerns that I'm sure a lot of people have. Because if you even go back to Cyberpunk 2077, its world was not necessarily that unique. I remember playing the game and I was like, what is so unique about this open world that a lot of people are talking about? Especially when you consider the fact that CD Projekt Red made The Witcher and The Witcher series, which their open worlds were quite much better than compared to Cyberpunk 2077. But I digress. And so these are where I see the challenges happening. But by and large, I think fans are just so excited to play this game. And this is the truth. It's the reality that they're going to just take this game for what it is and what the developers are able to deliver in the time frame. Now, one thing, again, that I really encourage a lot of people to do is to actually take some time to continue to dive into learning a lot about game development. I had a developer chew me out on my last video because I said something in a more general sense, but it's very hard for you to actually talk about the nuances in a broad audience of gamers that are not necessarily interested in the art of game development. But at the end of the day, I wish more and more gamers understood what it took to make these games, understood the process, understood the timelines, and how most of the time timelines are not long enough to make a lot of these video games. And a lot of the video games that you see that do very well, they're actually a product of years and years of development or years and years of experience that the studios have. Now, you probably understand that this is something that you're going to see the comparisons made, where many people make video game comparisons, with other games like Rockstar's GTA games and Red Dead games, but they don't realize that these games have taken Rockstar almost 10 years to actually put out. Red Dead Redemption had an 8-year development cycle. If you started crafting a game and you didn't get any cancellation, and your studio and publishers basically invested as much as they could to get you to deliver that game in 8 years, I can tell you that you're going to have a really good product. If the 8 years you spent was to make a sequel, then yes, you're definitely going to sell a Red Dead Redemption style amount of sales. A game like God of War Ragnarok, coming out in like 4 years after its first game, is actually pretty fast. If they had taken another maybe 8 years to develop the game, I think Ragnarok would have probably been a masterpiece. But there's not enough, in my opinion anyways, experience in developing a game like that within Santa Monica. Well, there wasn't anyways. I shouldn't say there isn't. There wasn't at the time of the development of the second game that they could have made a masterpiece out of the sequel. Regarding Elden Ring, on the other hand, they had all those years of Dark Souls experience and Sekiro and all of that stuff, that when they made their first open world game, it was just a culmination of all of the years of immense and intense, workable, enjoyable gameplay systems that they put in, that at the end of the day, there was no way you could ignore how good Elden Ring was. And so you would have to also go back and say Hogwarts Legacy, compared to how much in terms of the team over at Avalanche have actually put out, it's going to be reflective of their experience. It's also going to be reflective of what it is that they're capable of within the time frame that the game has been in development, basically around 5 years, which I personally think you need to get this game the proper treatment, another 3 years in development, but that gets really expensive. So whatever they do in this 5 years, I'm going to take it as a 5-year project, and I'm going to compare it with other 5-year projects in a similar category. And that will be very few and far between to find games like that, but that's how I'm going to look at it. I'm sure maybe other people might, take exception to some systems like Quidditch not being there and so on and so forth. I made the video saying it's a good thing that Quidditch isn't there. You probably won't have a game to play for another 3 years if they had to throw Quidditch on top of everything. And you probably will never even get a PlayStation 4 version if they threw it on top of everything that's already in existence in this particular generations that you have for the consoles. So if you want a Quidditch based or, heavily, in-depth Hogwarts system, you're probably going to be needing newer hardware and beyond. So Hogwarts Legacy, are we going to be getting a Cyberpunk type situation? I don't think so. I think a lot has gone on surrounding this game. The game has a lot of favorability. The developers seem to be genuine and sincere. They have a limited time. They're working with a publisher whom, in the past, a lot of its former leadership has basically wasted a lot of resources. I mean, no Superman game by now. Think about it. And they're going to bring out this game with a lot of love and care that they've been able to put into it. I think this game is going to rock. I think it's going to blow the fans out of the water. But thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.